Hey everybody, I normally don't do videos in my car, but I have about 15 minutes before I meet someone for lunch, so I thought this would be a good time to talk about one of the topics that's coming up a lot. It's January. It's time to think about taxes. Honestly, if you're a business owner, you should be thinking about taxes year round because it's a huge nightmare if you have an at-home business to try to handle it on your own. And so I just wanted to put together a quick video talking about why you need to consider hiring an accountant. I'm eventually going to have my own accountant on my podcast to talk about some of the mistakes freelancers make. The good news is that one of them is not deducting enough. I found that out. But I want to give you just a few reasons why it really makes sense to pay somebody else to do your taxes when you are a freelancer or any at-home business owner. So the first year that I was a freelancer, it was a side hustle. I didn't make that much money. I had only started freelancing partway through the year. But I thought, okay, I can handle this completely on my own, right? And I was able to do it then because the income was relatively low, and that was pretty simple, right? But the next year, my income increased quite a bit. And then all of a sudden, I had this much more complicated tax situation. And I took it to just, the first accountant that I could find in the yellow pages. And he was an accountant, and he was a CPA, and he had all of his licensure and certifications. But I learned a really painful lesson that I hope other freelancers can avoid having to go through. And that is that hire somebody who knows what they're doing with at-home businesses, specifically at-home businesses, specifically online businesses. You want to make sure they have other clients in their roster working on that, because the mess that was created by that accountant in 2013 took more than 4 months to fix, multiple calls to the IRS, multiple penalties that, were added on and then taken off. My current accountants had to spend a significant amount of time fixing the mistakes that were made in 2013. And that wasn't even, like my highest year revenue wise, my most profitable year, anything like that. So it was a mistake that I'm glad I at least made early on before things got even further complicated. But it was even a year ago. This is 2017. I was still getting notices from the IRS. They were still adjusting the taxes from 2013. And it created this huge nightmare where the IRS was actually triple counting my income. They were counting 1099s, information from Freelance, and information from PayPal. So in some cases, the same money was being counted 3 times. So like if I made money from Freelance and then transferred it to PayPal, and then the client also 1099 me. So the IRS actually saw in some cases that I was making 2 or 3 times as much money. And that was a nightmare to undo. It took my accountant a lot of time to fix that, a lot of documentation back and forth. I moved in 2014, so I had all this stuff boxed up and I had to go dig it out. Huge mess. If I had only hired someone who knew what they were doing the first time around, I could have avoided a lot of the problems with that, having to pay a new accountant hundreds of dollars to fix it, dealing with the IRS, getting nasty letters from them that all could have been prevented quite easily. So I do want to advocate that you hire someone who has expertise with at-home businesses. I actually discovered my current accountants, they're all the way on the other side of the country, through an online course that I was taking with someone else who had a drop shipping company. They did a ton of stuff on eBay, drop shipping on Amazon. And so we weren't even necessarily in the same industry, right? I was a freelance writer and virtual assistant and project manager, but he spoke so highly of this firm, both as his bookkeeper and as the accountants, that I actually contacted them. So it's a myth to think, oh, well, I have to hire an accountant in my state, right? I mean, you want the accountant to be knowledgeable about the taxes in your state and file your state return appropriately. But when I first contacted this firm, was living in North Carolina, and the firm was all the way out in California. So I'm happy to provide recommendations to that firm because they have been a godsend in getting things fixed. I called them in a panic because I was getting these notices from the IRS and was super stressed out about why taxes from 2 and 3 years ago were continuously coming up, where, there was always a problem with it. It felt like it was never resolved. And to have an expert on your side with that, go to bat for you, make the phone calls for you, to advance the issues to a supervisor at a government agency, hugely beneficial. And so when I submitted my taxes for the year following that, once we fixed the issues that were stemming from the earlier years, I was really nervous about what my tax bill was going to be for the years following that, right? I mean, my income had only increased, and I was just terrified, well, if we can't fix this 2013 issue where my income was much smaller on the freelance writing side, how are 2014 and 15 and so on going to be fixed? So what I was shocked to find was that I wasn't deducting enough. And my 2013 accountant was not deducting enough either. I had tremendous business deductions that I was not even taking advantage of. I had used some of the more obvious business deductions, but had not taken advantage of all of them. What a huge mistake on my end, right? Those taxes that were already filed. What a pain to try to go back and fix that or figure that out after the fact. But a lot of freelancers and at-home business owners don't realize that they're not deducting enough. So another reason to have an accountant do it for you, because they will ask you questions about things that you didn't even realize. Oh, I can deduct that. Oh, that's a business expense. Really, really helpful. They've been there, they've done it, they've been doing it for years. Rely on them. Third reason that it's hugely helpful to have a trained accountant who has a background with at-home businesses or freelancing, entrepreneurs, etc., is because in the event that you do get audited by the IRS, in the event that you have problems with your taxes like I did, you want someone experienced going to bat for you. I tried handling the triple counting of my revenue on my own 3 different times, and I was unsuccessful every single time, even after providing plenty of documentation. The minute that I got my accountant involved on that issue, talking to supervisors about it, I stopped getting the notices. It finally was clarified what was going on, and they were able to assist me with this in all the years going forward. So the last thing you want is to try to keep things cheap and do it yourself, and then find out that you made a mistake, or the IRS misinterpreted something, or your state tax agency misinterpreted something, and you end up being the one who is paying the price and trying to sort it out and possibly paying more taxes. My bottom line here is please hire somebody experienced. It is so worth the money. Even amazing accountants with experience in this field, they may charge you a couple $100, they may charge you $1,000 to do your taxes, but for them to properly do your deductions, for them to fix any outgoing or ongoing tax issues, for them to represent you in the event of an audit, it is so worth it. Trust me, you do not want to be dealing with this on your own. It's not a good use of your time. You're unlikely to resolve it on your own. So as we go into tax season, as you're looking at your 2016 income, preparing for 2017, I urge you to identify someone who has experience in this field. Ask for references of other clients. Look at testimonials on their website. Please make sure they have experience with at-home businesses. There's a lot of specific deductions for at-home business owners, home offices. You want to make sure you capitalize on all of those, because that is money that is not going to be taxed. Now, self-employed professionals often have very high taxes, and you want to be prepared for that situation. So hire somebody now to get your taxes in order, to talk about how you can strategize for the year ahead. And I look forward to hearing how an accountant has been able to help you, because I know for me it was just so important. I will never hesitate again to hire an accountant, and I'm staying with the firm I found because they've done such a great job. So as you get ready for tax season, don't use TurboTax. Don't try to file at H&R Block. Please find somebody experienced to help you, especially if you have high revenue numbers, especially if you have multiple 1099s, which most freelancers do. So best of luck with your taxes this year.